Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is the Dawnbringers, episode 0 of season 3. You know what? I screwed that all up. It's the first time back, and I'm screwing up the order. Let me try this again. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Downtime Activities, Dawnbringers, the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, season 3. Episode 0. And already in the moments before we went live, you guys have been active over there in the chat. Huge shout out to What You Looking At, Mini Terrain Domain's very first Twitch subscriber, has just resubscribed for 17 months. Of course, you guys know what that means. That earns you another domain die. And then it looks like Cajun Kevin has resubbed for 4 months. That's another domain die. And EverJ, our good friend Jason, has dropped, it looks like, if I'm reading that right, at least 500 with a bonus 50 domain dice. Yeah, he gave you guys 500 domain dice, 500 bits. So that's another domain die. So you guys are now at 70 domain dice at the start of season 3. For those of you who might not know what a domain die is, what the heck any of this means, although I think you all do, you can watch the scroll down below. Ted's pointing right there. The scroll going by will describe everything, or simply typing domain dice in the chat brings up the wonderful menu for a $5 tip or 500 bits or resubscriptions, raids, all of those kind of things. Earn the players domain dice that they can use to re-roll a d20 and take the new roll. Spend 2 dice and they can make me re-roll my d20 roll and take the new roll. 3 domain dice lets them gain spend hit dice outside of a short rest to gain emergency healing. 4 domain dice will turn a failed death save into a successful death save, unless it's a critical death save. Then it will cost them 8 domain dice to fix that. And finally, for 5 domain dice, they can turn any hit into a super crit, which is an automatic 2 times max damage critical hit that we like to call the Patron's Blessing. So that's domain dice, which of course are in play even with this episode 0 downtime activities. Couple quick notes. Down below on the Twitch stream here, you'll see several tiles. You'll see some for Jasper's Game Day, which is also down in the new scroll banner at the bottom. Mini Terrain Domain is a partner with Jasper's Game Day, a wonderful organization dedicated to raising awareness and trying to eliminate teen suicide and suicide in general. Thank you, Chesic Student, for popping the Jasper link into the chat. You can type Jasper at any time or click that, and that will take you directly to the Jasper's donation site. All donations to Jasper's Game Day go to help fund crisis centers around the country. Also in the same vein as Jasper's Game Day, Mini Terrain Domain has partnered with Initiative Coffee Company to bring you roast coffee, a Brazilian and Peruvian medium roast coffee. For every 12-ounce bag of coffee that you purchase through the link that has just magically appeared in the chat, or by clicking that link down below, $3 of each bag goes directly to Jasper's Game Day to support their efforts. And finally, in that same vein of Jasper's and suicide, if you need help, we urge you to type help into the chat, and that will bring up the link for the National Suicide Hotline. Professionals are standing by at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text 741-741. Please, if you need somebody to talk to, use that. Simply type !help. Or just give a shout out and somebody else will pop it open for you. I think that's going to be it for the announcements. We will take at about the midway point, we're going to take a 2-hour, nope, we are not taking a 2-hour break. We're going to take a 10-minute break, during which a video will play that has some other ways you can support the channel, or you can check out the links in the tiles down below. Unfortunately, Scotty is not able to be with us tonight, but that's in keeping with Season 2. He wasn't with us for the premiere of Season 2 as well, but he has a good excuse. He's dedicating time to spend time with friends that have come into town. So we're going to continue tonight. Tonight's game is going to be, if you're here for the first time, it's going to be a little more casual than our typical games. It is a chance for us to, with all of the travel, and some people felt the need to go to Europe to play D&D in a castle, but that's okay. The other three of us that are here went to Seattle and Tacoma to play D&D together in person, so we never got to have our episode 16.5. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're just doing it as a episode 0. So I'm going to do a quick recap of the previous season of Dawnbringers. All of our previous episodes, the 12 episodes of Season 1, The Sunless Citadel, and the 16 episodes of Season 2, The Forge of Fury, are available on youtube.com/mini-terrain-domain, where you can see the adventures of some of these characters. Thorgarn joined the party at the beginning, in Blazing Dell at the beginning of The Forge of Fury in Season 2, and while Megan has been with us the whole time, Fig has only been with us for this last season. If you want to find out why, you have to go watch those. You're gonna have to watch those earlier seasons in VODs. But the Forge of Fury found our characters in the town of Blazing Dell, which happens to be home to both Talmud and Thorgarn, where shortly upon arriving in town, they found out that orcs had been periodically attacking the town, and even attacked shortly after they got there, causing a big problem, and causing a big fight, and there was a pretty significant loss of life within the town. So the town requested that the Dawnbringers deal with the orcs. They put a price on the heads, or rather specifically the ears of the orcs. And then the Dawnbringers proceeded to do everything but fight orcs until the very last few episodes. They somehow managed to completely bypass the first level of the dungeon and do that as the last level. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. I am seeing a very peculiar glitch. We're not losing signal. I'm not dropping frames, but everything seems to be really, like, it keeps shifting, slowing down. Those of you in the chat, are we having any issues with audio or anything like that?
There are some saying the audio seems out of sync.
Yeah, I think what's happening is, I don't know what's happening. And then other people are saying that it's great for them. What it looks like to me is there's something going on through, possibly through Twitch, most likely through OBS. I really don't know. It seems to just briefly unsync, and then, like, it just did it just now, and then slides back in. As long as we don't lose the signal, nothing crazy happens, we're going to drive on with this. I have no idea what the two of you are, or the three of you are up to. I'm just noticing that V and Jeremy and I think Ted were making hand puppets. Ted's saying no. They're all denying it. Megan's looking innocently in her corner. All right. So, back to the recap. They basically cleared the entire dungeon in the Forge of Fury, the Stone Tooth dungeon. They went through, they fought ghosts. They found animated chairs that tables that unfortunately Thorgarn couldn't take with them. They found a succubus that tried to have her way with Griveth, but they quickly eliminated her. They dealt with a bed mimic. They fought and killed a young black dragon and claimed its treasure for their very own. They found some of the relics of Durgadin the Black, the legendary blacksmith, dwarven blacksmith, and I believe Talmud himself actually has made one of them his primary or secondary weapon. But they found a few of these special weapons. On their way out, they finally made it to the first level of the dungeon where they killed all of the orcs up there. And on their way out, they encountered the aspects of Moradin and Eldath, both deities to which Thorgarn the dwarf and Griveth the human paladin pledged their allegiance, and the spiritual form of Durgadin the Black himself came forth and spoke to them, and kind of set them all, there was a lot of information that they learned, and kind of gave them hints of things that are to come. They made their way out of the mountain and headed back down to the town of Blazing Dell. Yes, actually, that's a pretty important thing that I completely managed to ignore. In the horde, the dragon horde, for the longest time, Cantriel has been hearing her mother's voice. And when they fought the dragon in the horde, she found an elven bow with a combination of elven and draconic runes engraved into it. And when she took possession of this bow, 2 of the runes illuminated, one of which in this combined language of Elvish and Draconic said Melody, which is the name of her mother. And the other one said Cantriel. Cantriel has found essentially a magical oath bow that is imbued with the spirit of her mother that she can occasionally summon forth. And V, remind me, what is your oath bow? What is it actually called?
Sempre Cavatina.
Sempre Cavatina. And as to how her mother wound up in there and what the other runes mean and where the rest of her family is, those are parts of the mystery that is still left to be discovered. So we are going to pick up where we left off as the 5 of you are heading down into the town of Blazing Dell. I would like each of you to describe the scene you see. You emerge, I forget which one of you, I want to say it's Thorgarn, has a bag of ears or a bundle of ears or however it may be. You have all of your new loot. You found quite a bit of treasure throughout this place. Your pockets are jingling heavy with coin, and the doors to Blazing Dell, when the guards see you, they open up. Fig, what does your group's arrival in town look like from your perspective?
I'm not sure that Fig would take much notice of the other people who are coming to see them and greeting them at the gates. He is changing his focus from the large book he's reading and some of the bones that he has procured from in the on our adventures, kind of in both hands. I can imagine that all the other everyone else has armfuls of treasure and trinkets and weapons, and Fig has his book and his bones, and he is he's more looking to the reaction of his new friends. He wants to see how they are reacting to others, more or less, because he's been spending so much time with them and just them. He just wants to see and categorize how they are reacting to others. And I think it's actually because he's kind of nervous to be in front of other people. And so I would almost imagine that he would go behind Thorgarn and Talmud, which maybe doesn't make so much sense because he's so tall, so they don't really hide him a lot, but he feels a little safer now that he's kind of behind them and just looking.
Excellent. Of the two, Tormund, nope, Thorgarn and Talmud, which are you looking to first?
I think Thorgarn has shown him the most kindness and understanding, so I think he would look to him first.
Very well. So then tell us about your perspective of the arrival in town.
So Thorgarn, we did our kind of, campsite scene, last session where, Thorgarn was, kind of coming to reality that, hey, we succeeded, nobody died. We're all still alive. And, that's still pretty heavy on his mind. And, I don't know whether the town sent out multiple parties or whatnot, considering, how Thorgarn, feels his success rate has kind of been in the past for, these kind of things. He's not really expecting any kind of large turnout or any of that kind of stuff. It's not like, we sent runners on ahead to be like, hey, we did it. It's all there. So, I mean, he's kind of looking through whoever's milling around to see, what kind of, guardsmen or whatnot that we can, send a runner to be like, hey, we actually did it, looking for, anyone that's not that he's good at perceiving this kind of stuff, but looking for anyone who seems to have, the knowledge or, the foreknowledge, I guess you would say, to be there. Someone that looks maybe out of place.
You can make either a perception or an investigation check since you're making a deliberate.
Perception it is. That is a 17. I rolled a 16.
I would say that much more people than you, as you said, many more people than you would have expected are already waiting for you as if they had some sort of foreknowledge. And you've never seen this individual before, but amongst the many dwarves and humans that make up the majority of the population of Blazing Dell, you see a figure sort of lingering off to the side near one of the buildings, just curiously watching all of you. It is a taller individual who stands out most notably because of his horns that curl out from the top of his head. Though you've never seen this tiefling before.
Okay.
What about you, Talmud?
I think we're walking in, and the trail takes us right past this large open grave. And there's stacks of burnt and dismembered orc bodies beside it, as several of the townsfolk are wheeling more out through the gates, and they're systematically kind of tossing them in this mass grave. And Talmud kind of stops for just a second and kicks something in the grass, and a dismembered orc head that had kind of rolled away from the collective kind of bounces 2 or 3 times before going over the rim of the pit, and kind of just looks approvingly at his own prowess. Well, here we are, Blazingdale. What a lovely place. He keeps walking forward.
Tell me about the people that are filling this grave.
I think one of them is probably the butcher. I imagine he's probably a dwarf, and he's kind of one of those guys that you can tell used to be really like jacked up and swole when he was younger, but he's kind of let himself go. So like most of it is just kind of slumped down into his belly. But he's still a pretty stout dwarf. I think he's probably got red hair, but like both of the temples are white. And the other one is not the lead of the town guard, but like the second or third in command. And he's also a fairly large individual. Looks like he's pretty strong. And the two of them are both kind of taking turns with these carts and tossing the bodies in.
As you're watching this, you don't see the other figure, the large humanoid figure that steps in front of you in the path. And you bump into a very solid individual. As you sort of kind of bounce into and then pull back and look up, there's that moment where the sun seems to sort of backlight him, and you can't quite see other than this imposing muscular form. And then as he shifts and the light sort of falls across his face, you see that grayish green skin, and you see 2 large prominent tusks coming up from his lower jaw as this massive half-orc is standing there. And he just looks down at you.
You entertained by the sight of orcs in a mass grave?
It's nice to return to a place where justice is intact. And Talmud kind of like uses his finger to tap on this guy's badge.
This guy's not wearing a badge. This isn't the town. This isn't the leader of the...
Oh,
this is a different half-orc. This is different one half-orc you've never seen. And I think you do that. You reach up kind of expecting, there's still that weird thing with the light. And as you're reaching up and kind of thump him in his chest, you realize this is not the person you thought it was. This is a different individual.
I see the smirk across your face, seeing all those dead orcs.
You mean these dead orcs over here, the ones who raided the town and killed several of the people who live here? Those orcs?
Yeah.
I would think anybody would be happy to put them in the ground that was calling Blazingdale their home.
You know, I come from an orcish mother.
You don't say.
I think somebody as thick as you, dwarf, should be able to tell that.
I still don't have the blood from the last person I killed. The last orc I killed, as a matter of fact. washed out of my beard yet. And you're already trying to tempt me to spill more?
I still have the blood in my beard from the last orc I killed. Well done, dwarf. I'm just giving you a hard time, you wee
You're
bastard.
a right sick fuck you are. There's something wrong with you. It's probably your orcish heritage, honestly.
Absolutely. You find me when you're free in the tavern, and for all of you, drinks are on me.
Well, what a nice lad. He turns to everybody else and points to him.
And then he sort of claps you on the back and just lets you go on your way. And finally, Cantriel, what about you?
I'd be walking further back and sort of taking in the scene of Fig standing behind the two dwarfs, chuckling a little bit over that one, endearing as it is. Probably getting my bow at the ready, seeing Talmud being Talmud, but then relaxing a bit once seeing the friendly interactions, but also keeping a side eye on Griveth because I'm concerned about this one. He has not been acting himself. He's been rather back and forth with his demeanor. And also then noting the interesting tiefling out in the distance because chances are she does recognize him.
So, first, I want you to make a... I don't know why I'm doing that. Yeah, let me tap on the microphone. That's a broadcasting thing. I want you to... I want you to make a perception check, or an insight check, as you're keeping an eye on Griveth. Because as you guys are walking back, Griveth has become very withdrawn. You hear this sort of, there's the sound of your boots on the ground. There's the sound of various chain and armor and whatnot. But your elven ears picked up this sort of rhythmic... It's that sound that leather makes when it's stretched. And what did you get for your perception check?
A 12.
It takes you a little while to figure it out, and you realize it's Griveth. The sound is his leather gloves as he's clenching and unclenching his fist. Occasionally, his hand will dart to the hilt of Sir Bradford's honor on his belt, and then he'll suddenly just sort of pull it off, and then you'll hear that creaking of leather as he flexes his hands more. All of you have the stink of death about you. You have that smell of the blood and gore, particularly Thorgarn and Talmud, who were quite covered in orcish blood prior to leaving. But there's still that sort of old death, that fetid smell coming from Griveth. And Griveth has this sort of furtive look in his eyes the closer you get to town, just sort of eyes darting around. And then I want you to make me another perception check.
You don't want to use your passive? You don't want to do the check itself?
Actually, you know what? I forget. You have the...
I'm a little ridiculous.
You got the ridiculously high passive. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, though. If you mouse over the Twitch stream on your computer, you will see the lovely D&D Beyond overlay pop up. Mini Terrain Domain is powered by D&D Beyond, and you can see all of the characters, and you will note that they are all level 7 now. So lots of improvements happening to these characters, but Cantriel's always had a high passive perception. And as you're looking around, you also see this tiefling individual off to the side. And when you notice him, he makes eye contact with you. You know this tiefling. You alone of the group of Dawnbringers had a sort of, just the two of you. He approached you alone near a fountain and made a proposal to you. And you'll remember that his name is
Baron.
Baron something or other. I can't remember.
Baron Ellis or something like that?
Yes, I think that was it. So, he makes eye contact with you, and I'm just going to find this real quick. It's going to bug me. Baron Alfun, that's his name. Baron Alfun. When you make the eye contact with him, he gives you that nod of recognition, and then he sort of just motions with his head and heads in that direction of where you had your first meeting. All around you, as you enter the town, the people are gathered. You're constantly, all of you are getting claps on the back. Thorgarn and Talmud, you're seeing quite a few people you recognize by sight, if not by name. Fig has a ring of children that are continuously walking around him, and occasionally there's this sort of ringing metallic sound as they realize that by clapping you on the back or the arm, particularly if they quickly learn if they hold a small rock in their hand, that doing so will just make that metallic ting. They're not hurting you or trying to hurt you. Like, they're not stoning you. They're just kind of like realizing, oh, ting, ting. I saw this look of horror on Megan's face. But they, the people are surrounding you all. This time you do see Talmud. You see Sergeant Grender Coln, the large half-orc veteran that was in charge of the town watch, accompanied by Constable Dara Whitewood, this older gray-haired woman with a scar on her face. And they kind of wade through the crowd of people, and they greet the five of you. The Sergeant Grender Kulm just sort of nods at each of you in turn, and Constable Whitewood looks at all of you. Now, it appears as though all of you have survived the Stone Tooth. Though I'm not entirely certain if that is your own blood or the blood of orcs, but I see you are walking all right. I trust all is well with you, particularly looking at Talmud and Thorgarn.
Some of it's mine, I'm pretty sure, but not a lot of it, especially the stuff that's in the beard. I would love to stay and chat, but I'm disgusting, honestly.
Yeah.
I would like to take a bath.
Well, that is quite understandable. The hour grows late. All of you have at the inn. Your rooms are held. Our rooms have been held for you pending your arrival. I will send a runner at once to take care with Cyril Bankdown over at the Griffin's Nest to arrange for hot baths and meals. We will keep, and she sort of looks at Sergeant Colm, we will keep the locals away from the tavern and the inn so that all of you can get your rests. In the meantime, tomorrow, we would like to settle up with you. We would like to pay a proper respect towards the deeds you have done and hear your tales.
Aye, sounds like a plan.
So, you all are able to go to this inn. You're able to get your rest. If you wish for baths, you find that this half-elf woman by the name of Sarl Bankdown is the proprietor of the Griffin's Nest Inn and Tavern. Is all too eager to meet the needs you may have, whether you request a private room, the baths, hot baths are prepared for you, all of that good stuff. And is there anything the next day? Well, first of all, while we're still in this day, because I get the sense that somebody may want to go talk to somebody tonight yet. So I won't fast forward. I keep trying to fast forward because we're doing this downtime thing, but I'm not going to rush anything. So feel free at any point to interject if you guys want to do, if you want to do something specific, which I assume.
Yeah, I want to jump in. During the rest, are we able to find out what those flails were?
What those what?
The flails were? The great oath that had?
Did you try to take those with you? I don't remember.
Yeah. I've got them on my sheet.
You took the giant brass balls.
I did.
So if you spend some time while you're resting and kind of unpacking your gear and looking everything over,
because you said that they were basically just 2 large size weapons.
Yeah, they're incredibly large. It's quite unwieldy. If it wasn't for you being a very stout dwarf, a mountain dwarf, you probably wouldn't have even been able to carry these. I just imagine this like, kind of draped across your shoulder kind of thing, occasionally lending to the sound as your giant metal balls are clanging as you walk. That's the only reason you brought them.
Yep.
What do you call a dog with short legs and steel balls?
Yep. There's the design is such that you had discovered that spikes do pop out of them. There's nothing magical about these weapons. They're basically just oversized twin flails that this ogre leader of the orc tribe had made his own weapons. It's unrealistic that you would be able to wield them in any real way, so you could probably scrap them out or find somebody that might be interested. In fact, why don't you make me let me ask you this, would you ask around if anybody was interested in these?
I would talk to other dwarves about them, but probably stay closer to home. If nothing else, they might be like a trophy piece, considering this guy was like the leader of who was in our home, our ancestral home. So like whatever, gold value they might have, it's not as good as the story that it's gonna be able to have.
I would say give me a if you're going to just sort of shoot straight from the hip and describe what these things are and how you came across them, do a straight charisma. But if you're going to sort of embellish your story, maybe with a bit of hyperbole, make it a performance roll.
Winds up being the same. That is a 15, sir.
In kind of taking these among the dwarves and talking to them, you do find that there are dwarves that are interested in a couple of dwarves that are interested in taking these off your hands to study. One of them is it says that he is a blacksmith, and he would like to study it and the other one is interested in, once the blacksmith is done studying it, he would like to, this other dwarf would like to possibly set it up as a, I can't think of what you would call it.
Like a formula?
No, like almost like a relic for the church kind of thing, because it's something that you claimed, not necessarily for the church, but just kind of as a artifact, I guess, like a point of interest. Would you give it to them, or would you try to sell it to them?
I would give it to them.
All right. So you can take that off your sheet. The dwarves they go by the names of Artemius and Bartholomew.
So I guess Bartholomew is the historian?
Wrong. Artemius is the historian. Bartholomew is the blacksmith. And they are brothers from the Clatterhammer clan.
Clatterhammer?
Yep. Don't mind me as I write down the names I just made up. So yeah, you they introduce themselves to you, and you already, as soon as you hand this over, they're sort of, clamoring over these two items and heading back to their shop. Who else wanted to do something tonight yet?
Cantriel would have gone off to the fountain to meet Baron.
All right. You head off in the direction of the alley. God.
I looked at the chat. I'm sorry.
I've seen you guys, I feel like a teacher in front of the class, and all of the kids are cracking up, and I forget. I can see what you're laughing about.
I'm just glad you said the name was Clatterhammer, okay? Because it could have gone a very different way.
Well, it was the name of the dwarves, not the name of the balls.
Yeah, but they could change them.
Although, based on chat, I think somebody thought that... Hold on.
I love how they're blaming me. I've been a total angel.
I just rolled over my headphone cord. Hold on a second.
Don't do that.
Sorry, we don't buy that.
Hey, the horns hold up the halo.
All right. So I just rolled over my headphone cord right where they connect.
Uh-oh.
So I'm struggling. Hold on, I'm having a problem. Pardon my technical glitch here. I may end up having to buy a new extension. I don't know if I messed up my headphone or if I messed up the... I literally rolled right over this connector piece.
Uh-oh.
And I can barely hear you guys out of one ear.
Well, can you hear us out of the other?
1 second.
Although I gotta give chat credit. They were coming up with some doozies. They were keeping up.
Nope, there it is. I was going to take the extension off, and I realized when I rolled over it, I pulled the jack was partially pulled from the audio interface. Okay. That's what happens when you have to use wired headphones. Sorry about that. What was I saying? We were talking about you
being petulant children.
I'm the one that introduced the steel balls for the purpose of a joke at the end of the last season, so that's on me. All right, Cantriel.
Yes.
You enter this alleyway where the only sound you hear is the fountain running, and there are a couple of gaslight torches that have been lit. There's just two of them on either side of this little courtyard, casting a little bit of firelight as the sun has set enough that it's below the walls of the town, and is starting to set shadow in place. And as you enter this area, you see sitting on a wooden bench, underneath one of the gas lanterns, is Baron Alfun, the Tiefling. I see you decided to take me on my invitation.
Well, it was certainly an interesting one, wasn't it?
Well, I've been watching for your arrival for quite some time. I was pleased to see all of you returning.
Yes, so we have a bad habit of making sure we keep each other alive.
I wouldn't necessarily call that a bad habit. It is rather an admirable quality.
Oh, I guess you haven't taken sarcasm then, have you? It was a joke.
Perhaps
But yes,
not.
we managed our way through it.
And what of the weapons of the Mark of Dargaden? Were you able to find any of these?
It's very interesting you're asking about them now.
Well, the last time we spoke, I asked about them.
Oh, I know. You gave me 3 provisions. Maps, information, and such. However, having gone through that place and seeing what exactly is there, as well as what it means to the dwarfs, I'm afraid there's no deal.
There's no deal on any of the accounts?
On any of it.
No
It's
weapons, no maps, no information.
Nothing. It's not yours.
So you think that I wish to claim all of what lies below the stone tooth for myself?
Let's just say I'd like to give them a little boost along the way.
Interesting.
Have you a heritage, Baron? Have you have pride in the people who went before you? Have you connections to the people who have passed, who have left legends and stories?
The only connections that I have are those that I've made along the way. I make my own stories in my travels. Are you certain that there is no wiggle room in ideas?
Let the dwarves into the deal and let them decide. That's my stipulation.
Interesting. Well, he stands and he nods to you and he says, I'm not going to bother to waste my time arguing with you, elf. But you are wrong about one thing. You have come through on at least one portion of our deal. I do not gain any of the weapons that I sought. And it seems you will not provide me with any detailed maps of the underneath of that mountain. But you have provided me with some very interesting information. You hear, there's just a quick flash of his hand. Light glints off of metal, and you hear a metallic thing, and you realize a coin is flipping through the air, arcing towards you, as he already has turned on his heel and is walking away from you. Will you let the coin fall to the ground, or will you attempt to snatch it?
I'm already turning and walking away from it.
Oh. Interesting. You hear the ting, 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 ting of a coin of unknown denomination falling to the ground behind you as you and Baron Alfun walk in opposite directions. Would anybody else like to do anything before you turn in for the night? Fig?
Other than I am going to say that I think when Fig walks into where everyone will be resting, instead of all the blood and the from the fighting, he also has small pictures of various clouds and maybe a dragon from all the children that have been surrounding him and somehow have gotten a hold of either chalk or markers. And I can even imagine there is a child kind of grasping at his book as he walks in. Just, no, I am very sorry, small human. I cannot give you this. This is very, very important to me. And as he's like holding the book, he just kind of takes his foot and just kind of like very gently just pushes the child away from him. And he says, "That was the most terrifying experience of my life." And that's all I wanted to say.
All right. What about you, Talmud? Anything special before you?
Yes. Talmud is going to take 2 baths. The second one is where he actually cleans himself. The first one, he is rinsing all of this stuff off of him, but he's not using water. He has enough money. He's going to fill it with human ale.
That is a very peculiar phrase. Human
Not
ale.
made of humans.
Right,
Yeah.
but
The cheap shit.
right.
I mean,
so
we've
you're
had
basically
elf
filling a
pudding.
bathtub with PBR.
Yeah, exactly. Bud Light. Just fill
Or
it up.
in honor of our recent visit to the Pacific Northwest, Rainier.
Rainier.
Absolutely. Just something about the phrase human ale had a ominous twist to it.
It's different. It's different from elf pudding.
He's not wasting good dwarven ale. He's using
Not
the bad stuff.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
it's natty light.
So,
Yeah, like-
let's see. I forgot her name already. The proprietor of the Griffin's Griffin's
Sarah,
Nest, Cyril Bankdown, is all too happy to provide you with actually a large barrel, a large keg of this ale. It's very dusty, and she refers to it as piss water, though she assures you it's not actually piss water. It's specifically what you requested. She said, as she hands it to you, so that you may begin filling the basin, filling the tub, she says, "You know, you seem to be one of very discerning taste."
You know, that's what I keep telling the people that want that adventure with me. They don't seem to trust that. But I'm glad that someone does.
Well, when you're ready, I have a fine selection of dwarven ales that will be waiting for you.
Do you have any Kirgin?
I have not seen Kiergan in... It's been at least 50 years.
That's a shame. He kind of hefts one of the heavy leather bags that contains all these coins kind of onto a stool next to the tub. That's a real shame.
You know, I've been looking for a reason to go searching for some of those older recipes. I suddenly feel inspired to go searching and seeing if I can find myself some of this Kiergan.
Well, if you happen to find one of these recipes and make a batch that's worth a damn, I know at least 2 dwarves that would be more than willing to pay.
Make a charisma check with advantage.
Okay, let's see. And
And while you're rolling that, to clear up in the chat, the Kiergan is the dwarven ale that you received a few bottles of back in Oakhurst, and you consumed all of it.
I did. 14 total on that charisma.
You know, if I were to undertake such a task, it's going to require some research, some travel, some supplies. This is a sort of venture that might require a bit of a patronage, if you will. And you can't help but notice her eyes continuously glancing toward that sack of gold you so deliberately set down.
Well, when you're ready to set out on your expedition, maybe you can come searching for a patron. If you need supplies, again, I know of at least one dwarf who may be willing to pay for such things.
Very well. I will leave you to your, well, cleansing. And I will get back with you. And as she walks out, she starts to close the door, and you can see that as she's closing the door slowly, she's still peeking in, but not at you. She's just eyeing that sack of coin.
And I think that's when, like, the camera, we see Talmud's butt, like, shift into perspective right in front of the bag, and he kind of looks over his shoulder. Do you like what you see? And he kind of shakes.
You immediately catch her sort of just instantly shifting a bright shade of red, and suddenly closes the door very rapidly. So, unless anybody has anything else they would like to do, we're going to move into the next day. As morning comes and all of you have eventually make your way down for breakfast, it doesn't take an elven passive perception to notice that Griveth does not join you. So here, at this point, what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of just go around and see what kind of things you guys would like to do. Word has been left with you that Constable Whitewood and the council, which includes Talmud's Granda, would like to see all of you in the council chambers to get an accounting of your quest and settle up with sorry, one moment. Okay. My daughter's away on a trip and is insisting on texting me even though I told her I was on air. I don't know why my daughter needs me to pick her up. Go figure, kids. I'm just kidding. Anyway, sorry. I was distracted by that. So they would like to see you later in the evening. You basically have the day to yourself. And what we'll do is depending on what you do, some of these things are going to take some time. So we're going to kind of play through that, and what I'm going to do is kind of say that a lot of these things are happening concurrently, and that depending on what you do ultimately will depend on the amount of time that you spend in Blazing Dell before you set forth. Based on the events of what you learned from Durgadin the Black and your encounter with Moradin and Eldath, I would like each of you to tell me one thing or something you remember about what your character learned and that you think you might want to pursue based on the information that you were told. And we'll start with Cantriel.
She's ready to find out more with this connection between the tree and her family and the sacrifice that might have been happening.
Fig.
Sorry, is this what we're wanting to know in Blazing Dell?
No, this is based on your conversation at the end with Durgadin, and when the aspects of the deities were kind of giving you information. Just a general idea of where you think you might be going next or what you might be doing. Completely ignoring the title of this season up in the corner.
I think that Fig would... I think he would help Cantriel with the whole sacrifice thing. Or with anything else that she would need.
I was going to say phrasing because out of context, that sounds really bad. I'm going to help Cantriel with this whole sacrifice thing. Fig, I don't think you understand what we're doing here.
I can imagine Fig comes in with a bag, just full of all the necessary tools.
There's black candles, sacrificial
we're not
daggers.
sacrificing from our bones, are we? Because we don't need to do that.
Fig's like, have you seen those children?
Are they still alive?
Maybe Cantriel's the one that says, where are those children? What about Thorgarn?
So there's a handful of things that, that Thorgarn, kind of remembers, whether it's, accurate or not, it's partially because whether Ted remembers. I do believe there was something about a boat, but he also remembers that there's, acceptance, but yet there's trials ahead. So he is hoping that the whole thing with a boat is going to be some time because he's got some plans, some things to kind of set in motion before we leave. So he's hoping to really after I get a little bit of shopping done because I need supplies first, he wants to do some forging and really get a proper connection with Moradin now that he's kind of met him, let alone bestowed all this power upon him. He's he wants to strengthen what's there because when he left Blazing Dell, he was, just this, savage warrior who felt that he had lost that connection with Moradin, and clearly he didn't because here he is, his faith that much stronger, and again, having had a conversation says a lot.
All right. And Talmud, what about you?
So Talmud, perhaps a little selfishly, has been kind of preoccupied with something of a slightly more personal matter, and that was that Great Uncle Horm is no longer with him, that he has gone to rest now that he knows that Durgadin the Black has basically ascended into the care of Moradin. So Talmud is going to get in touch with his clan, and he wants to arrange memorial service, burial, something to that effect for Great Uncle Horm.
All right. So, you with all of that in mind, we're going to start moving into the actual downtime activities that all of you would like to do, and start to figure out how long you're going to be here. And there are some things about how and why you are going to be heading where you are going to be heading that will be revealed through the course of your investigations. Because it's close enough to when we normally take break, and I've got a couple text messages I have to deal with real quick. We're going to go ahead and take our 10-minute break right now. We're really only 10 minutes early with that. So we're going to go ahead, take a quick 10-minute break. In trying to deal with the weird glitch, I realized that I think Zoom might have been causing part of the problem. But I had to close down the thing that also manages the countdown timer. So just trust when the videos in the break video come to an end, we will return, and it will be about 10 minutes. So thank you everybody who has tuned in tonight. I'm so glad to be back with this group of players with 4/5 of the Dawnbringers, and to be starting back up again on this. I love this Thursday night game, and I love seeing all of you active in the chat, hanging out with us and being a part of our adventure. So please stick around, hang out for 10 minutes, and we will be right back. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is The Intermission. Mini Terrain Domain, or MTD, is a channel dedicated to the love of and participation in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether we're designing encounters or miniature terrain, building worlds or dice towers, or just playing games, everything we do here is because we love this amazing hobby. That is why the mission statement of Mini Terrain Domain is simply imagine, build, play. If you like to watch live play or actual play D&D games, you can do so at twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain 3 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, you can join us for Cult of Personality, a long-running campaign set in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure setting. On Mondays, you can join us for All That Glitters, a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign guaranteed to be epic proportion. And every Thursday night, you can join us for Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury. This is a series of mini campaigns going across the gamut of several well-known modules. Season 1, which is available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, took place in the Sunless Citadel, and Season 2 is currently taking place the Forge of Fury. If you can't join us in the chat for our live shows, that's okay. You can usually catch the roleplay, or rather the replay, on YouTube just 2 days later. If you're a fan of what we do here and you'd like to support what we do, there are a variety of ways you can do this. First, simply follow the Twitch channel or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Next, make sure you follow all of the participants of each game or show on their various social media platforms. To do this, if you're watching live with us on Twitch, you can simply type an exclamation point and that person's name into the Twitch chat, or on YouTube, you can look down below the information bar and all of their links can be found there. Finally, if you would like to provide monetary support, which flows right back into the production of the channel so we can continue making great content, you can join the growing list of patrons on Patreon. Additionally, you can also use Ko-Fi or Coffee to buy a coffee or two. I like coffee. But the absolute best way to support the channel is to follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube and join us in the chat. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to one channel per month absolutely free. No matter what you decide to do, we are just happy to have you here. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more great content in just a few moments. Remember, metadata!
Hi everyone, I'm V, and I have the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse. Please be sure to go over there and check it out if you too would like to learn how to make some tabletop terrain, paint miniatures, as well as some game accessories. I'm always happy to have new subscribers over there.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers, and I'll see you in the next video.
Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is a collection of 4 adventures for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. The adventures are setting neutral and meant to be seamlessly dropped into any world that has a large seaside city and a jungle environment. With a bit of adaptation, the environments could be changed to suit any group. In Treaty of the Tiger King by Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, a distant king arrives at the city to negotiate the peaceful end of a war, but the mercenary guild has other insidious plans for him. Will the players be able to thwart assassination attempts against King Rami and help him negotiate circles of social intrigue in order to finally end the war? In Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Ken Brees of Burling's Beard, the famous Majestic Menagerie draws hordes of visitors to the metropolis and cultural hub known since time immemorial as Splendor by the Sea. But now the gates of the famous zoo have been shut, and the grand opening of the new section has been jeopardized by a spate of mysterious accidents and, it's whispered, grievous injuries due to uncontrollable creatures. Mr. Majestic seeks to hire investigators and troubleshooters who can keep a low profile to iron out any problems before the impending grand opening becomes a complete disaster. Do you have what it takes to uncover what's driving the madness that's befallen the Majestic Menagerie? In The Infernal Collection by Sharong Biswas, when an influential fashion designer is found dead days before a major fashion show, heroes are called in to solve the mystery, prevent any further destruction, and help the fashion house prepare for the show. Gorillas in Their Midst by Jacob W. Norman of Mini Terrain Domain is a pulp action adventure wrought with perilous challenges and high possibility of death. But what is adventure without danger? Of course, there is the lure of vast piles of unclaimed treasure and the accompanying fame that await those intrepid adventurers who would defy the odds and plunge into the heart of darkness. In this adventure, the characters will face raging river rapids, wicked waterfalls, poisonous plants, venomous vines, sinking sands, treacherous traps, and the vicious jungle demon itself, Awakanegori. Grab your satchels, fedoras, and bullwhips. Adventure awaits. The Adventure Mixtape also comes with 4 original songs inspired by and written for the heroic adventures herein. This collection of music and story is something unique. We had no better word for it than mixtape. If you ever received a cassette, CD, or digital playlist curated to take you on a memorable journey, then you'll recognize what you find inside this volume. Also included in the Adventure Mixtape, courtesy of Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, are exclusive combat cards. Special cards that contain all of the items, monsters, and spellcasters found within these adventures to make running your adventure all the more easier. Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is available exclusively on drivethrurpg.com.
Cryforth, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Cryforth,
Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Griveth, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarnal, the Proud Orcs, the Reptilian Suri, or the Infernal-blooded Tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous roll tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Broodhammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Griveth are not heroes. In Griveth it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on DriveThruRPG.com.
And we're back. Thank you for sticking around during the break, keeping the conversation running while we were gone. I need to make an adjustment because while we were gone, Tamiko F has resubscribed for 6 months in a row, which means I'm going to momentarily strike 4 of these domain dice. And then I'm going to turn that off and turn this on. That's right. The Dawnbringers have 71 domain dice. So now, in the last session or two of last season, I think you guys hit close, something like 72 or 73 before you drop down. So no records here yet. Though there are some dice patrons that have claimed that their goal is to get these guys up to 100 domain dice. So that'll be exciting. I just love seeing that huge number up there. I know one of the games I think we have in our All That Glitters, I think we have like 14 domain dice. So it is now the next day, and we're going to move into this weird sort of parallel time shifting thing going on as we figure out what you guys are going to do. And I'm going to roll a d4 to see who we go to first. And I'm going to use my new translucent red out of the D&D Essentials kit. V is 1, Megan is 2. Let me just check that. Cantriel is 1, Fig is 2, Thorgarn is 3, Talmud is 4. Fig, you are the first one up for your downtime activities. So walk me through what are some things you'd want to do. We'll kind of play through it with this. As I said before the stream, for those of you watching, we're going to be using a combination of the Xanathar's Guide to Everything Downtime Activities and my own system called Making Shit Up. So, Fig, what would you be doing during this period of time?
So I think his main goal during this downtime is to be finding out any information he can about Copernicus Emberrun, who was listed as the possible name of his creator in the book that he has been slowly deciphering. That would be his main main goal. And then if there was some sort of library, he'd want to just do some idle reading and stuff like that.
You do know that Thorgarn had taken 2 dwarven books out of the mountain. I don't know if you, Megan, were there that session, but I have a massive book on dwarven religion and dwarven myths and legends. So Thorgarn has completely let you be able to look at them whenever you so desire. So you have those as well.
Oh, awesome. And he would definitely take you up on that and look, or definitely take up Thorgarn on that and read them. But yeah, finding the name of and anything relating to Copernicus Emberun would be his name.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to say because of your nature. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When we sort of built Fig, you have a vision problem, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say that you don't get any special clockwork bonuses for speed reading or anything like that because of the vision problem. Thank you to Undead King 426 for the subscription and earning them another domain die. So it's going to take you pretty much a normal amount of time. How much time a day would you dedicate to trying to read through these tomes? Keep in mind, as a clockwork wizard, I think you're less prone to distraction and fatigue. You'd be able to spend longer hours at it.
Well, I believe that technically Fig doesn't need to sleep. He just needs to kind of
correct
peace out for a bit. So I don't know how you would you categorize reading through tomes and stuff like that as
I would say that's definitely because of Fig's unique nature. That is something you could do at night while everybody else is sleeping. You use that time for I wouldn't allow like deep research or anything like that, but you're just reading these tomes. The Dwarven tome on religion, and then the Dwarven lore. So I'm going to have you for each book. I would like a intelligence check. And we'll go ahead and I'll allow you to add your... Well, let's do this. Add insight as you read these books. So first for the religion book, go ahead and add your insight bonus.
Yep.
Or make an insight check.
Ooh. So that is a 16.
And for the second book, same thing.
Okay. That is a 9.
All right. So you find that as you're reading through these books, for whatever reason, you're able to sort of grasp the philosophical and religious natures of the discussion of the various religions. And maybe some of it sticks out a little bit more because you've heard Thorgarn talk of Moradin quite a bit since you've known him. And so those passages leap out at you. I'm going to say that this particular book, when it comes to dwarven religions, you have advantage on religion checks for dwarven related religions. So make a note of that. Let's see. But you have a really hard time discerning fact, fiction, and hyperbole when reading through these dwarven legends and lores. A lot of what's said, it just kind of goes over your head. Like, you don't even realize that what you're reading, it sometimes is a fable. or a parable or just a straight out boastful story, to you it just seems like people telling stories, and they're little more than the words on the page. You miss the subtleties and the nuances of these stories.
I can imagine that Fig almost takes them literally. So now he has a bunch of misinformation about dwarves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's something, if you want to, you can absolutely make a note of that and work into anytime dealing with Talmud and Thorgarn. I look forward to seeing that. Now, as you set about trying to learn about this Copernicus Eberron, we're going to be using the research downtime activity. You will have access throughout the town, depending on how you want to approach it, to the library, and possibly to find some sort of sage, a librarian, elders in the town, whatever. You can spend, it's going to cost you at least 100 gold pieces in materials, gifts, bribes, whatever, to gain access. Sometimes somebody charges you for access to certain books, whatever it may be. And then you can spend a number of weeks doing this research. You can gain pluses to your roll that I'm going to make you make by spending more money. So that is up to you to determine right now if you think Fig would have the foresight to bribe or possibly to just straight up offer money or however. But for every 100 gold pieces you spend, you gain a +1 bonus to your roll.
So I think that he would definitely check out the library and he would ask maybe if there's like some sort of academia there, even if it's just like a very small council of wizards or something like that. He would go to them. And I think I know the halflings they were halflings that took him. Just a group of...
They were gnomes.
Or gnomes, right. Yes, sorry. Gnomes. I assume they have carried on selling their snake oil wares.
If you remember, the one was killed in the onslaught.
Yeah.
And you have seen no sign of them since you left Blazing Dell.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, he would stick to libraries and asking those who he would deem who might be involved in the same thing that his master was, which is experiments, academia, stuff like that.
So let's first start with how much gold. You're going to have to spend 100 gold minimum. How much extra gold would you spend in trying to find individuals and all of this? Did you guys remember to divvy up your gold and all of that?
How much did we get? Sorry.
Yep, it was 1916, I think.
Oh.
1916. Yep.
Yeah, you had had quite
person?
a yes, for each person. You'd found several thousand gold pieces, platinum pieces, gems, and we just went ahead and assumed a conversion and liquidation of those assets. So,
gosh, I don't even think that. See, Fig really, really wants this, and I don't even think he has any idea or awareness of money. I think he would spend it quite foolishly, and he would spend a lot of it to get this information.
Okay, so I have an idea. This is going to fall under the rule set of making shit up. So, real quick, I'm going to using our lovely D&D Beyond resources. I'm going to find a, let's see. Somebody in chat, give me a non-human race. Nothing, well, just, I'm not even going to tell you. Just somebody in chat throw out a non-human race. First non-human race I see pop up in chat. You're going to meet an individual. Interesting. I love it. And of course, are you kidding me? The one race that they name is the one race that doesn't have names in the there's no Aarakocra names in the name generator for this. So I think Aarakocra is quite exotic in this area. Only slightly less exotic, and for some reason I have a strong affliction maybe that's right, affinity towards tabaxi. You are going to find in your research, you run into a tabaxi woman who goes by the name of, I'm just jotting something down because I have to write these things down as I make them up. She introduces herself to you as Silent Waters. She has a very calico coat about her, mostly in dark browns with splotches of tan and white. And what I would like you to do is roll me an insight check. And this is going to cover your first meeting with Silent Waters.
16.
Okay. So you are able to determine that while Silent Waters is very helpful, very willing. You meet her in the library one day, and she just sort of, you spied her watching you, and eventually she made her way over to you, and of course she introduces herself to you as Silent Waters. I spend much of my time in the library. I like the silence of it. I like the smell of the old books. I like to watch the dust motes floating through the air. I like to watch as the various individuals coming here seeking knowledge. And I'm not going to lie. I sometimes like it when they go away frustrated at their inability to find what they are looking for. I will help you. While you are searching here, I will avail myself as a research assistant. And through this insight check, you get the sense that there's something sort of off about her, only in the sense that she doesn't seem to be completely honest with you. She doesn't seem like she's outright lying, but you beat her charisma check by like 1 point with your insight. So it's basically there's something more to her that you can't quite put your finger on, and that's perhaps your naivete that's preventing you from quite nailing down what it is. But it's enough that you know just to keep an eye on her. Throughout the time that you're researching, she does tell you things like, I wasn't able to find this particular book, but I know of a halfling man on the other side of town. No, it would be too dangerous for you to go, but I will go. He's going to require a bit of gold for a bribe, though. And this is where I'm going to say that you have a little more knowledge to maybe not be quite as free with the gold as you might. You get the sense that she might be taking a little off the top for herself because of that insight check. But this is going to aid you in your search, in your research. So now is the point where you determine how much money, knowing that you're probably being taken advantage of a little bit. How much money would you spend on your research?
Oh boy. I think
each 100 gold pieces also accounts for an extra week of research.
Okay.
So for instance, if you spend 400, so 100 is the minimum. But if you spend 400, that's going to cover 3 weeks of research.
Okay, so all right. Ooh. Would Fig be able to ask the others how long? Because for Fig, he's willing to stay for as long as it takes, but he doesn't want his friends to leave him.
I think you kind of get the general impression, most of the time everybody's off doing their own things, that the expectation is you're probably going to spend about a month at least in Blazing Dell. That might shift up or down depending on what you guys do.
Okay. All right. So I think he would spend about 600 for 5 weeks.
Okay.
Is that the math? Yes.
Yeah. So take 800 gold away, because you sort of lose 200 in attrition to Silent Waters, basically using some of that for herself. So you are going to get you're going to make a roll, and you are going to have, this is going to be an intelligence check, and you gain a +5 bonus to this check.
Just straight intelligence?
Yes.
All right.
And that +5 bonus is actually just enough to mitigate. You won't get the worst result, which is to learn absolutely nothing. So even if you roll a natural 1, you're going to learn something. Thank you to Archie64 MTP for the subscription and earning these guys another domain dice, which of course are fully in play for these downtime rolls. All right, so D20 intelligence check with a +5 bonus. What did Fig get?
Fig got a 27.
Wow.
Yeah, because I have +5 to intelligence.
Excellent. Fantastic. So you essentially got a +10 to your roll. So by this, you learn basically 3 pieces of lore is what this says. So you find that at first, in the first couple weeks, you get the sense that Silent Waters is kind of running you around a little bit. Maybe even Fig starts to get a little impatient. You busy yourself reading through, what you're able to find in the library. And then in the 3rd week, Silent Waters returns with a handful of rolled up scrolls and says that I was able to procure these for you. Do not ask me how. Let's just say that they were once a part of an old man's collection, and he will not be needing them anymore. No, I did not kill him. He is not dead. He's just a doddering old fool who would rather spend his time in drink, which perhaps I may have supplied him with. But nonetheless, I think you will find these very interesting. And the scrolls that you are given every one of them has one thing in particular. Some of them, one of them is a map of a region you are completely unfamiliar with, It appears to be a seaside town, and you don't recognize the name of the sea. You don't recognize the name of the town, but you recognize in the corner of this map and these other documents a sigil that, as you look at it, you recall, even though the wax on these scrolls has long since fallen away, you recognize that this mark that's drawn, you just sort of see it in your mind, a flash of it, as a seal in a blue wax that is a anagram combining the letters C and E. You recognize it as the mark of Copernicus Emberon. And you're reading through this, you learn that on an island, I'm trying to find the name of the sea. On an island in this sea, that it's not telling me what it is. When I find out the name of the sea, I will tell you. That it is there it is. On an island in the Azure Sea, Copernicus had a laboratory, a hidden laboratory. It was not his normal place of residence. And you find amongst these documents drawings and notes. It looked like very early notes for clockwork mechanisms. One of these documents you see is, it actually looks like somebody had seen a document and redrew it from memory. And this looks very familiar because it is something you have recently seen projected in a spectral format, and it's the one that shows the same three figures with one of them crossed out. And the thing that's most notable, though it's missing many of the elements of what you saw when talking to Durgaden, the black, you see very prominently below these three figures, figure 1, figure 2, and figure 3. And all of this is pointing you to, as you're looking through it, the Azure Sea. You see in other documents that the descriptions and things seem to corroborate what's on the map. You see an area far inland called the Dreadwood, and you see a couple of towns along the coastal area, one of which is a place in an inlet for a river, or rather an outlet for a river, called Seaton. And there is a circle around a town called Saltmarsh. I know, imagine the shock as I see Jeremy's face. So that is sort of the high level view of what you have learned, combined with what you learned in the it just sort of corroborates with what you learned from Durgaden about the three figures, the mysterious missing figure that was crossed out, and the third figure, which was named, do you remember? I know the name, I don't have it written on this piece of paper. It was oh my gosh, Archimedes.
Yep.
But there's something very familiar about this notion of the laboratory in the middle of the sea. And every time you see anything referencing it, coming to you in quick flashes that are almost hard for you to understand as a clockwork mechanism, but they're basically like visions and memories of falling rocks, bubbles everywhere, churned water, and then endless, almost unmarkable passage of time sped up as your clockwork form sits at the bottom of the sea amongst the debris, slowly tarnishing and gathering rust. Your ocular sensors clouding over, barnacles growing on you. And then the last vision is a heavy woven net stirring up the silt near you, dragging past you and catching you up in it. And then you see the water churn, and there's a burst of daylight, which you haven't seen for many years, but your vision is clouded over. A barnacle has grown across one of your eyes. You're stiff, unable to move, and you catch the blue sky and the clouds and a gnomish face, and that ends the visions. So that's what you are able to learn in your research and downtime. And
oh, that's so cool. Do you mind if I just add one more?
No, absolutely. Feel free to embellish.
So I would like to have a image that is Silent Waters found on one of these scrolls. It is very tarnished, and some of the ink has bled out onto the parchment so that it's kind of faded looking. But what Fig can make out, it is a diagram of what looks to be Fig's head. Just the head, and it looks as though the head is open. And it shows all of these different gears, and it shows like kind of the process by which the head opens, but some of the key mechanisms and the key ways to open it have all been scratched out. And finally, the most destroyed section of this parchment is where the head is completely open, and it looks as though there is something inside.
Excellent. All right, so right now we know that you guys have 5 weeks that you're playing with, roughly. So happening simultaneously with this, we are going to go to Talmud. What would you do during this time?
So, like I said, Talmud
actually, real quick. What's her name? I think I clicked off of that too. The proprietor of the Griffin's Nest. She does come to you and say that she wants to head off in search of following a lead. Would you give her any money, and how much?
When he comes back, or when she comes back to him, and he kind of asks her a few questions, trying to determine whether or not this is legitimate.
Give me an insight check.
Okay, let's see. That's not bad. That's an 18 on the die. Switch over to the sheet. That's a 21, Chief.
She is sincere. In her talking with you, you've actually learned that she has a pretty extensive knowledge of dwarven ales for a half-elf. As well as elvish wines, And there are a few select human brews. The humans seem to be better at distilling spirits from grains and things like that. But she has a pretty extensive knowledge, and she seems very sincere and knowledgeable in what she wants to set out to do.
Okay. With that level of confidence in her, Talmud will certainly give her some money. I don't know, 200 gold pieces.
Okay. So we'll circle back to that. What are you doing in the meantime?
Like I said, I want to get with Granda and try to arrange for some kind of funerary ritual to bury Great Uncle Horn. And also, I want to talk to Granda about trying to move at least part of the clan into Kundrakar and kind of setting up a outpost, civilization, whatever.
All right. So I think this is going to fall into the category of making shit up. So, you talk to your grandfather, and you, plus after, in talking with the council, you find little to no opposition to the idea of taking over the Stone Tooth and what was Kundrakar. The dwarves and even your grandfather would not give any sign that this is what they wanted until you brought it up. But as soon as you bring it up, you can see your grandfather sort of has this, oh, thank the gods, that's what you wanted to do. I would like you to make a charisma persuasion check with advantage.
So, I'm going to spend a domain die.
What did you roll?
5 and a 2. That's mildly better. So you said persuasion?
Yep.
I'm going to need a third monitor. Persuasion. Oh, that's actually, that's a 13.
All right. Roll me a D100.
$38.
And then roll me a D10 times 3. What I wanted was to see how far above 10 you got.
Okay. A D10 times 3 will be 9.
And you had 38 initially?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 38, 48, 47. Wait, 38 and 9 is 47. I don't know. Ignore my math. My mumble math. So we're going to say, we'll just call it an even 50 dwarves that you are able, through your storytelling, it's that you're able to inspire to take up the charge of reestablishing Kundrakar. They're going to move in. They're going to take care of the cleaning, the maintaining, sealing off, investigating what you've told them about the dragon cave, sealing off the supposed back door, dealing with any remaining sturges and troglodytes that were in there. And yeah, you basically convince 50 dwarves to take over. Your grandfather wants to go and see, be taken through, but he says that he is far too old to move into the mountain. His bones can't take that anymore, but he's happy to just once walk where Durgadin the Black once walked, to see the forges. And in fact, you're present at a ceremony in which your grandfather is the one to relight the forges. And a couple of blacksmiths from the 50 that you inspire begin using Durgadin's tools and what they find within the mountain to begin to make close approximations of Durgadin the Black's steel. Though there's a learning curve to it, right off the bat, it's dwarven steel. Even if it's a bad replication of Durgadin the Black's process, it's fine steel. For the other bit, why don't you go ahead and describe for us the funeral that you are able to arrange for this uncle that has finally sought peace and moved on.
So I think that we see a lot of the dwarves, probably even more than agreed to actually come and settle here, kind of dressed in like the fine clothes the finest clothes they might own, and their beards and hair is all groomed properly and cleaned and done into braids and decorated. And some of the others here in the party might be with us as well. And we're in the temple that Thorgarn and Griveth found here and consecrated. But it's been cleaned and kind of straightened up. And this is where the ritual is being placed. Great Uncle Horm will be the first dwarf to be laid to rest here in Kundrakar in probably hundreds, if not thousands of years. And we see Great Uncle Horm's skull kind of being placed down, as well as one or two pieces of kind of rusty equipment that has been kept all this time and handed down, that was supposedly his, that he didn't take with him on his last journey. And all of this is being interred with incense and a lot of chanting. I imagine drums probably being played. So it's a very somber ceremony, followed by rather unsomber behavior as the ale gets passed around.
In a very Return of the Jedi moment, for just a moment, as you are well into your dwarven ale, the drums are still playing, and the sarcophagus has been sealed, and already one of the blacksmiths also was a pretty fair with a chisel on stone, and is just finishing putting the dwarven carvings that say the name of Great Uncle Horm, and is sort of prepping the area to do a full relief carving on the lid of the sarcophagus. You see in the shadows of this part of Kundrakar, just for a moment, you swear you saw Great Uncle Horm standing arm in arm with Durgadin the Black, both of them tipping a mug of ale in your direction, and then as quick as you see it, they're gone. And then the final thing I would like you to do, Talmud, is I would like you to make an investigation check and add a +2 bonus to it. I'll let you do it with advantage as well.
Good, because my dice apparently realized that we're back. Okay, so this is investigate?
Yes.
It's gonna be good. That's a 19.
That's excellent. So, this in the making shit up rules that I came up with, at anything over a 10 gets you a D4, anything over a 15 gets you a D6. So, I would like you to roll a D6.
2.
And multiply that by the die, which is 6.
12.
What's her name? Because I still forgot to bring it up. But the
Sorrel?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. She returns after 4 weeks. And she pulls her pack off. She still has the dust on her boot. She seeks you out. And in the back room of the tavern, because she doesn't want to do this out in the open, the dust still on her boot, still wearing her traveling cloak, she pulls her heavy leather rucksack, and you can see that there's a wooden crate attached to the top of it, wrapped in burlap. And as she starts to unhook this, you hear the sound of heavy glass bottles clinking against one another. And she takes the lid off of this crate, and there are 12 dusty bottles of Kerrigan in there. And she reaches in, and she pulls 4 of them out and sets them aside. These are mine. The rest are yours. And she says, and she kind of holds one up to you, and she kind of looks at it like to make a motion to open it, and says, if you're willing, I would like to drink with you. Just 1 bottle. I plan to take these others and try to figure out the Kerrigan recipe.
You know, finding what you have found is worth opening one of these bottles. He pulls one of the 8 out of his own stash, and he says, but learning how to make more, that's worth 2.
Are you going to drink 2 bottles?
We're going to split 2 bottles.
Okay. Make a constitution check.
I'm a dwarf, so I'm going to do that with advantage.
Yep.
Okay. So that is con save or just a con check?
Sorry, it is a save.
Okay. In that case, it will be a 16.
All right. Actually, I got to make a con check for her. You don't even finish the first bottle, and she immediately is sloshed. You're not even going to believe the things that I had to do. And you can't barely understand her, and she's talking something about a cave. And at one point, she just loudly, she goes, and then there was a splorch. I don't even know how I made it out of there.
You saw a splorch too?
Oh, it was...
We saw at least 3, 4 splorches.
And she just gets more and more difficult to understand, as she clearly cannot handle Kerrigan. I would like one more Constitution check from you. Save.
All right. That's a 20, so a 26.
So you maintain your dwarven sensibilities about you, but you are quite inebriated. You're very prone to telling ribald jokes and singing loudly, so nobody notices anything different. So the two that you split, were those out of your own 8 bottles, or one of hers and one of yours?
One of hers, one of mine was the intention.
So you have 7 bottles of Kiergan fine dwarven ale in your possession. Is there anything else you wanted to do? I think that pretty much the funeral arrangements and everything kind of works within that 5 weeks.
I agree.
So, all right.
What a way to end it.
Evens is V, odds is, or Cantriel, odds is Thorgarn. That's out of the box. It is Cantriel. Cantriel, during this 5-week period, what are you up to?
First of all, she'd want to try and get where it's not so town-ish and more towards like the woods, and just spend a little bit of time just in nature, because she hasn't had that in a while. And also just have some time to herself, just to think things over, because this was a revelation. So she would do that first and foremost, and then she kind of wants to see if she can find out if there's anyone in town once she's kind of taken care of her own need for nature and just kind of getting away from town. Go back into town and see if there's anyone who is well versed in Eldath.
All right, so this falls under relaxation, which is an actual downtime activity in Xanathar's. And there's not really a lot of room here for complications or expenditure of gold for this purpose. But given what you've been through over the last several weeks, couple of months, you are able to head outside of town. I imagine you probably travel about a half a day to get away from everything. And you spend about a week by yourself out in nature. Just enjoying the nature. There's a couple days where there's a light rain, but that doesn't bother you, I imagine. You manage to find a nice stream, so you have nice fresh water available to you. I would like, give me a survival check.
Okay. That's going to be a dirty 20.
While you are spending about midweek, in a week, of course, in the Forgotten Realms, in Faerun, is 10 days. So after about 4 or 5 days, you're spending a quiet afternoon. I would like you to tell me, what is it in this sort of grove, a grove of trees, a stream, a waterfall? What natural feature or terrain have you taken solace in this day? And then I would like you to tell me, what natural or fey sentient creature or being emerges and introduces themselves to you.
Oh, jeez. It would definitely have been the stream, because it would be reminding her of the home she grew up in, especially because she's gone out there to contemplate what she's learned about her family. And then, what was it? Fae?
Some sort of, it could be like something sentient.
Okay.
But I'm giving you a little creative license here to choose, a fey creature or sentient, thinking in the terms of things like satyrs, dryads, unicorns, just fairies, pixies, fairy dragons.
I probably would be a fairy dragon, actually.
Fey hounds, Megan. I'll tell you about those sometime. So I'm sorry, what is it?
One of those little fairy dragons.
Oh, a fairy dragon. Okay. Let me go to here. Interesting. I love D&D Beyond. describe this fairy dragon and how it presents itself to you? How do you notice it, and how does it sort of...
It's actually not something that she'd notice, like in terms of looking. It's more, she'd probably be sitting there and playing her instruments, just kind of taking notes and creating new songs, and then sort of feel it's like there type of situation, and do the type of thing one would do with a skittish deer or a rabbit, and just sort of hold still and be very quiet and sort of let it come out and come toward her more than anything else. And it's probably going to peek its face around some bushes to the side of the stream, and the first thing you'd notice would be its bright eyes and just sort of this look of curiosity going on.
What color is this fairy dragon?
Green.
And then I would like you to roll a... Well, actually, you don't need to, because you said what color it is. Okay, so I would like you to make a... We're gonna go with some opposed charisma checks, and how much time would you invest in trying to befriend this?
Probably like an afternoon or so type of thing. See if she could do it by the end of the evening.
All right, I want you to roll an opposed charisma check.
Okay.
What'd you get?
Domain dice. Okay, that's much better. 14.
Okay, so that's one success. Another one.
That's a 17.
It's 2 successes.
Oh, cool.
And another one.
An 18.
It's been getting closer to you and more used to your presence. And you make a move that was a little too sudden, and it darts away. That's a failure.
Okay.
All right. Again.
Another one. That's the 13.
It doesn't seem to want to come close to you. You're at 2 successes and 2 failures. Make another check.
16.
So on this last check, I'm using the classic 4th edition skill checks. So you needed to get 4 successes before 3 failures, but it critically failed on this last check. It critically failed, which means you are able to counteract that skittishness and gain the trust of this creature. This is a green fairy dragon that you can tell by looking at it. It's an older fairy dragon. It looks like it's been around longer. I would like, in just quick succession, I'm going to have you make, for the last 5 days that you are going to be in this sort of seclusion, I'm going to have you make 5 quick charisma checks.
Okay, 8.
All right.
16 again.
Okay.
12.
Okay.
All right. 20. Dirty 20. 11. One more.
Actually, that's good.
That's
so
it.
You had gained enough trust. I just wanted to see over the next 5 days if you were going to have more successful or unsuccessful checks. You have gained the trust, perhaps due to your elven nature. What is your Eladrin nature? Are you aligned with one of the seasons? I don't remember.
No, she's in aligned with them.
So
She's more DMG mode.
you find that when you're finally ready to leave this solitude, everywhere you go, this fairy dragon is following you.
Oops.
And it has been spending more and more time with you, and it just automatically, when you go to leave, it just follows you. Unless you want to try to get rid of it, you have gained a fairy dragon companion.
Heck no, I'm keeping that.
So, because you have access to D&D Beyond, all you need to do is look up an older fairy dragon. I think, if I remember correctly, the character sheet has a place in it for companions.
Yeah.
So you might be able to add that in there.
It's older, right?
Yes, it's older. So that's where the greens, the blues, the indigos, and the violets are. Fairy dragons have things that... so obviously I'm having you take this character sheet or this stat block for it. But character knowledge, you don't fully know all of the abilities that this fairy dragon has. So you won't be able, for a little while, I'll probably control some of the actions of your fairy dragon.
Okay.
In the meantime, you'll have to think up a name for your green fairy dragon. And I look forward to the inevitable art of Cantriel with a fairy dragon companion. Is there anything, or what is the next thing that you wanted to do?
I'd be going back into town to see if I could speak to someone who's an expert about Eldath, because she's extremely concerned and suspicious about what's going on with Griveth.
Okay, so what I would like you to do is an investigation.
Okay. Oop. And that's a 22.
Okay, so you find a here it is. That there is an All Faiths temple in Blazing Dell. And you find Sister Alonza, who is a female human priest that maintains the temple. And I'm going to do one of my percentile rolls. I'm going to make this be a broader percentage. So I'm rolling a number. There's a 40% chance that Sister Alonza knows things about Eldath. So I need you to roll your D100, and if you end up within this range of 40 on either side of the number I rolled, then it's a success.
86.
I'm sorry, was it Eldath that you are inquiring about?
Yes, Eldath. Waterfall like symbol type of thing going on?
I do know a very little bit about Eldath, but it's only because of that young man who's been coming in here recently. He has that symbol emblazoned upon his shield. I believe you know him, of course. He's one of you. You call yourselves the Dawnbringers.
Yes, you're probably talking about Griveth.
Yes, Griffith Langsmore is the young man. He professes faith in Eldath, though, to be fair, my specialty, being in a primarily dwarven town, has always leaned more towards Moradin. I'm afraid, dear, I don't know a whole lot about Eldath, but what exactly is it you are hoping to learn?
Well, you're one of faith, aren't you?
Oh, yes, that is quite true.
As one who practices a faith, did you find anything a little bit peculiar with Griveth and his statements and his convictions? And
she looks to the side in this conspiratorially. Are you talking about the way he smells, dear?
that and the way he seems to change within seconds in terms of his opinion about things.
I have noticed that something seems to be troubling young Griffith, and he's not entirely of himself. Let's do this. I'm going to have you make either a religion check or a persuasion check.
Oh, we're going to go with persuasion.
And I'm going to do this. I'm going to have you let's see. All right, first let's make a unrelated to this other check. I'm going to have you make an opposed persuasion charisma check.
Okay. 18.
So you're going to make this religion or persuasion check, this new one, at a -2. Okay. You get the sense in talking to Sister Alonza that almost like she's looking down her nose at you. She doesn't quite seem to trust is a strong word, or distrust, but she has a certain skepticism about you, as you are an outsider coming in asking about somebody in the faith to talk about somebody else in the faith. She doesn't sense that you come from the same faith. So she rolled a dirty 20 on that first persuasion. So missing it by 2, I'm applying a -2. So now you will make either a persuasion or religion check.
Okay, that's a 16.
Okay. You find that over the course of a week or so, often she's a little put off. She seems to just suddenly have something to do, and she asks you to come back later. And you learn that if you keep your visits separated by at least a day and relatively short, she becomes more receptive to you. And you're pretty much staying on task, that you are showing genuine concern for Griveth. And eventually she starts to open up to you a little bit more. You find yourself somehow persuaded through actions. You just find yourself polishing alongside her, not for her. Like, she's doing things to maintain, like polishing some candlesticks, ironing vestments, laying out tabards, things like that, and you just sort of slip into working alongside her. You find that's the best way to get her to open up. And she talks a little bit more about expressing concern about Griveth and observing him as he himself has come in talking to her, that whatever happened to him, and he wouldn't talk to her about it, but whatever happened to him when you were in Oakhurst has deeply affected him. Whatever adventure you took, all I know from the words and from the legends is that you went underground into a place that when you emerged, Griffith left a piece of himself there, or brought something back, or perhaps both. I'm trying my hardest to ignore you, Jeremy. I just can't. What the heck is happening? I've been trying not to look at the chat as well.
Don't do it.
At one point, I saw something that said, "Beautiful Jake, walnut." And I have no idea what was going on, so I stopped looking. That's our side chat, folks. But anyway, she says she's concerned that Griveth either left a piece of himself behind or took something away with him that he shouldn't have. And then she says, or worse yet, it may be a little bit of both. I'll tell you this. Your friend exhibits all the signs of corruption. Think of it this way, and this is while you're polishing these silver candlesticks. As we rub the cloth and the polish across this, we stop the effects of the oxidization on the silver. If we were to leave it untreated and not polish it, eventually it would grow dim and become completely clouded with tarnish. This is what I fear is happening with Griveth. Something is tarnishing his soul. I don't doubt his dedication to Eldath, but I fear that the waters in the waterfall of her sigil that marks his shield, they grow cloudy. Something pollutes those waters in his soul. I believe Griveth is on some sort of personal quest to seek a solution to this, but he cannot do it alone. And you may be the key to ensuring that he finds what he needs to polish away that tarnish. And I don't mean you necessarily yourself, though, and I hate to speak out of turn, it is clear that Griveth holds you in high esteem. But yes. I say you, as in you and your companions. I think it is very important that you stand close by Griveth to help him find what it is he is looking for.
Well, I appreciate your information and your time. It's certainly something I can speak about with the others and let them know.
I think as long as he has you working with him and at his side, he will find what it is he's looking for. Here. Please, take this. I don't know if it will help, but if it comes down to it, it perhaps can't hurt. And she excuses herself a moment, and she comes back with a small wooden box. And it's sort of a mahogany wood, and as she opens it up, inside is a red velvet interior, and inside are 2 candles, some incense, and 3 vials of holy water. This entire box has been blessed under sacraments of the Allhammer Moradin. Moradin he's a good deity. May not be Eldath, but I just feel that you should have this with you. Perhaps you will find a need for it. Or perhaps it will be the thing that Griveth needs in a dark moment. But please take this.
Thank you.
And so you can mark that on your sheet however you want. It's 2 candles, 3 holy water vials, and incense.
Okay, cool.
I think incense is listed in blocks. You can just mark it as a block of incense. Is there anything else?
No, I think at that point she'd probably just head back to the rest of town and sort of just do her barding thing. Probably be hanging out at the tavern and singing her songs and such.
Alrighty. Excellent. Sorry, Ted, we don't have time to get... No, I'm just kidding. All right, Thorgarn, what is it that you would be doing during this 5-week period?
So the first thing is, just, ye old basic shopping. And, there's nothing that's, outside of the PHB. And some things I'd kind of like to keep away from the group for right now. So unless you need me to go through what, nuts and bolts and stuff that I want to buy, is everything that's, in the PHB able to be purchased here?
So, and this is actually something I completely intended to tell you guys at the beginning. When it comes to selling any items that you have that are non-magical, just any mundane items that you found along your way, you have earned a reputation in this town that allows you to sell for 25% higher than the list price in the book. And you all have a 25% discount on all mundane supplies. Your reputation has gone a long way, both traveling from Oakhurst and now in Blazing Dell. So yes, any mundane items. Regarding the armor, was that just going to be a straight purchase for you then, Ted?
Yeah, I was looking at
Thorgarn.
Armor, tools, some clothes. Nothing. Uber. Just, I've got some plans, but I mean, I didn't want that to go too crazy.
So I am gonna have you. This is gonna be aggravating for Cantriel, Talmud, and Fig, I'm sure. I'm going to have you make some rolls regarding this one particular task that you want to do. And we're going to do it without telling anybody what it is. And then when the time comes, it will be revealed to both the players and the audience.
Sure.
So I'm going to say...
So is this the purchasing roll, or is this
this is
number 2 on my?
This is for the number 2 item.
All right, excellent.
And it's kind of a given that you're going to have to do some outsourcing to make this happen in the time frame. So that's going to.
I was looking at the crafting rolls, and since I'm not making something uber, I would feel that would fall under the shield gold amount, which would mean I could get it done in a day. So I could do all 5 of them in 1 week based on...
I don't see... What rules were you looking at?
Page 128, crafting an item in Zenithars.
Oh, I'm on... I don't have page numbers.
Okay,
I'm looking at crafting an item. I just don't see that...
Yeah, it says you can, do 50 gold pieces worth of work in a week.
Yeah, I didn't see the shield. Or you're talking... Oh, so you're saying based on the price of the shield.
Right. Right. Since the shield is essentially more metal than what it is that I'm trying to work on.
Well, having I almost showed something. Having myself some experience in doing what you're attempting to do, I would say. Then, what was the cost of the shield?
10.
Okay, that's reasonable. That part of it can absolutely be done. And because of who you are and your reputation and being from Blazing Dell, you actually are able to work alongside a blacksmith friend of yours who grants you access to some of his tools and supplies so that you don't have any problem. What on earth is happening here? It's so funny because I literally I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I plan on buying one of those horned helms. Obviously don't need a fake beard because I have real dwarven blood, but this cracks me up.
I have a horned helmet, but it's currently my turn, so I can't go get it.
I made all this, so
That's awesome.
I can hook you up.
So that portion is not a problem. What was next? I think I started to write them down. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, do you want me to make my roll on the making the thing?
Yes. That is going to be... We're not... Well, actually, there is no roll.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted a roll to see how well they came out or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of do want to do that. So I'm going to have you... I'm not even sure what skill to use for this.
It would use the proficiency with the smith's tools.
Yeah, okay.
Nice. So are we using strength?
Are you going to try to do it all in the first day, or are you going to spend a little extra time on it?
Well, I figured if we do do it over 2 checks, 1 check for making the thing, and then 1 check for the artwork.
Okay. So I don't know. I think this is more of a. I think this is going to be more of a dexterity-based check.
Okay. So Dex is 2 lower. So that is 3, 4. So 23.
Okay. So the craftsmanship of the items turns out very well. Functional. The blacksmith is kind of he keeps coming over and looking at what you're doing, and occasionally you get a,
I wouldn't do it that way. No, use the bigger hammer. No, I mean the smaller one.
I am proficient, I am kind of, blessed by the god of nothing.
So when it's all said and done, he kind of looks over him, and you know it to be a compliment when his response is
silence.
He doesn't insult it, but he doesn't praise it. He just kind of looks at it and goes, huh. And now for the second check, also a dexterity check.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and use one of those domain dice you got up there because I'm not a halfling. That's better. So as a 23.
All right.
That was the check that was more important to me.
Well, you definitely have this vision in your head, and it's almost like, because you're so focused on it, it's almost like you can see this superimposed on the items that you're working on, that it's little more than tracing imaginary lines to put these to make this happen. So count that as 5 successful items that are to be revealed at a later time.
All right.
So now I believe there's 2 more things you wanted to do.
So yes, the next since we know that Siren or whatever her name was is trying to do her own ale thing, amongst the standard supplies that I was buying was to get a brewer's kit, and I want to make a Dawnbringers ale, something that's springy, vibrant, but still potent, similar to what we are. So I wanna get that going. I know very little about making ale, or I know it takes time, but I don't know how much time it takes. But I know you set it up and let it go. So if 5 weeks is not enough time to actually make it, be a proper thing, it's going to be like, all right, I'm going to set it up and just kind of leave it here for the innkeeper to.
I think this is a thing that's going to, with everything else you're doing, you're going to be able to check in on it. It's going to take the 5 weeks. We're going to do a couple of, good Lord. Is that rubber bands?
Well, she had paper at first, so
I didn't even see the paper one. What I saw was Tamiko in the chat going, "OMG, Megan," which drew my attention immediately to Megan. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Now imagine not being able to take it off, V. Actually, when you have a real beard, it has a cooling effect in the heat, I find.
Really?
You don't find that?
No, not really.
Well, that's just what I tell myself.
One winter, I did grow a full beard, and it did not last long.
So, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you. Are you proficient in brewer supplies?
I am.
So you're going to be able to add your proficiency bonus.
Okay.
I'm going to have you. I'm going to have you make straight intelligence checks, or you can apply survival.
Yeah, I like survival.
Now,
ready?
Are you? Well, hold on.
Oh, yep.
In procuring your items that you need, you're going to have to spend some money.
Sure.
It is going to cost you 100 gold pieces to procure the. You have the basic brewer supplies, but you also need to get the whatever they're called, the vats and tanks and things, barrels that you're going to need. Plus, you have to get the hops, the barley, the yeast, all that stuff. In increments of 100 gold pieces, how fine of ingredients are you going to purchase? Each 100 gold you spend beyond the first 100 will give you a plus 1 bonus to your roll.
Yeah, let me drop 500 on it then.
Wow. All right. With a little bit of consultation before she takes off on her own ale quest, you are able to procure some of the finest hops, mountain grown, or I don't know enough about brewing I'm talking on my butt here. Mountain grown hops and valley grown barley. Barley? Yeah. Some heirloom yeast. I don't know. So you're going to be able to add a
plus 5 to whatever.
Plus 5 to your roll of survival. So make that roll.
A 19.
Because of the volume, roll a d4.
4.
All right. You have purchased enough to create this ale And with your roll, this is graded as a top tier ale.
Yeah.
It has a very high alcohol by volume content. It is considered by many experts in town to be very delicious. If you were to allow anybody other than yourselves to taste it. And with that roll of 4, you were able to brew 4 cases or 48 bottles of this brew.
48 bottles?
Yep. Basically, I just did a little bit of the crafting rules combined with some making shit up, and kind of applied the item rarity of magic items. So you made the equivalent of a legendary ale.
Yeah.
We'll call it, because it's the Dawnbringers ale, that it is a heroic ale.
Dawnbringers heroic ale. Nice.
Somebody out there that brews beer, please make a Dawnbringers heroic ale. It needs.
I mean, the Mister makes it sometimes.
Really?
Nate knows how to brew.
I would love to just have a bottle, even if it just had the. Well, I'm the designer. I can make a logo for what does a Dawnbringers heroic ale look like? Oh, all right. The final thing that you wanted to do.
I basically wanted to talk to the church, number one, and see what they feel as far as my new standing is. I don't know whether there's a whole lot of actual power wielding clerics in the faith, or whether they're just, hey, I'm a priest, not a cleric. I believe Father Freller was an actual bona fide cleric, but I don't know, when most of the mission went off and died, I don't know who was left in charge, and I don't know what they feel about me now, and whether or not there's anything that are paladins of Moradin in the town.
Make me a charisma check as you talk to Sister Alonsa.
Just straight charisma?
You can have it however you want to talk to her. It can be persuasion.
If it's a charisma skill, I ain't got it, so. I'm gonna use another domain die, because this die rolled a 2. All right, that is a 17.
There's no doubt in my mind that you, Thorgarn, carry the very obvious blessing of Moradin upon you. However, you also bear upon you the indelible mark of your past and what has happened to all those around you. Well, I admire the path you have set yourself upon. You have much more work to do to prove yourself worthy of claiming to be truly in the service and power of Moradin. Not that it's impossible, but you are like, when it comes to the faith, you are like a brand new baby. You need first to learn to crawl before you learn to walk.
What race is she?
She is human.
She's human. Well, some say we dwarves are stubborn, and we sometimes want to skip that whole crawling and walking, and we go right to running.
And that is why you tend to run headlong into danger and dangerous situations. But that dwarvish stubbornness has carried you this far, And has
Indeed it
led
has.
you to Moradin.
I never lost faith. I just thought he had lost faith in me. And while there are times that I feel it is right to brag, this is no boast. But Morden did actually come and speak to me as we were leaving the mountain that we cleared and claimed for, or reclaimed for the dwarven kin.
Make a charisma roll.
14.
You see, when you mention that Moradin has spoken to you, that you've seen Moradin, her eyes narrow. And then she does this sort of, like, she literally steps back and looks you up and down.
So as she does, like, I'll puff my chest. I can't really get higher, my not even 4 foot frame, but I'll stand as tall as I might.
But she seems to look you over, and then very quickly the doubt passes away. This is the true mark of Moradin that I see upon you.
Aye.
But you still have a little more. Stay on this path, Thorgarn. Keep watch over your paladin friend, who has his own dark clouds that follow him around. Perhaps the spark from Moradin's hammer upon the anvil can illuminate the darkness that clouds young Griveth's heart. And you could be the one striking that hammer.
We are looking into it. We are doing all that we can for our companion. I in fact, if you can keep a bit of a secret, and I pull out one of the items that I've made and show her. This is just something to hopefully keep him on the right path. I quickly stow it back in the bag.
She looks at it. As you go to stow it, she gently puts a hand on your wrist to stop you. Did you make these yourself?
Aye. The hammer and myself sung to Morden the entire time, asking for the inspiration to guide us all.
How long will you be here before you continue on your travels?
Not sure. I know that there's been talk of eventually moving on again when Morden came to us, kind of showed some visions, and there's definitely travel to be had. But honestly, it's been a couple of weeks since me companions have kind of made the town, scattered on our ways. But before too long, we should be moving on. Why do you ask?
Oops. Hold on a second. I'm checking something. Whatever is causing the glitch, or was causing the glitch, is something is eating up my system resources. Even my mouse isn't moving.
This is exactly what happened to Scrat. It's Zoom.
Yeah, and I had seen somewhere else somebody had mentioned an issue with Zoom, that in a recent update that it's doing something weird with resources.
They imposed a beard limit.
That's what it is. You guys are overloading it with beards. So in the interest of time, she tells you, Thorgarn, if you're willing to leave these items with her for a 10-day, she will place a blessing of Moradin upon them.
That would be most kind.
So I will tell you later what that does. Was there anything else?
No, we actually got through the whole thing.
All right. So I will get with Scotty separately, and he and I will deal with some things that some demons, as it were, that Griveth is wrestling with. We're hopeful that Griveth, that Scotty will return next week to join us, and we will begin the adventure proper next week with the end of the 5 weeks. We'll wrap up a couple of things that have been in progress through this downtime activities and resolve just a couple of things there. And so next week,
are we waiting for next week to do that meeting with the guy from town to turn over ears and all that stuff?
Let's just assume that's happened. However many ears you procured, I believe it was 25 gold an ear.
Yep. I got 23 regular ears and 1 large ear. I don't know if that one's worth any more.
Yeah, they'll give you 50 for it.
All right. So basically it's 25 times 25.
So that's how much gold you've earned. As I said, you've earned the permanent discount at Blazing Dell stores. And for the most part, you all are seen as heroes and saviors of Blazing Dell. People are already telling the tales of the Dawnbringers. If you share the Dawnbringers Ale recipe, then perhaps Dawnbringers Ale will become a staple of Blazing Dell. And who knows, maybe even begin its journey across the lands.
I will absolutely share it with the innkeeper. It's got to stay to these kind of things, and as kind of a trade-off, like I can brew stuff at her spot without any storage fees.
All right, so in the interest of time, because I apparently have to go pick my daughter up from somewhere about 20 minutes away, and it's already 11:30. We are going to say thank you to everybody who has joined us tonight in the chat. We love you all very much. It's been so awesome just having you be in the chat, to have this game back. I've missed a lot just trying to keep up with what's going on in the game, but I know there's some cool stuff going on in there. I'm seeing apparently Undead King 426 I'm going to talk to their brewing teacher next summer about how to make a Dawnbringers Ale. I don't know what you're cooking up, Undead King, but I love it. If you're talking about trying to make an actual Dawnbringers Ale, that's fantastic. Next week, be sure to tune in 8:30 p.m. Eastern every Thursday night for Dawnbringer Season 3, The Ghosts of Saltmarsh. You can also tune into Mini Terrain Domain on Sunday nights at 8:30 for Jolt of Personality, our Tomb of Annihilation campaign. Monday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for All That Glitters, our Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. You can find me on alternating Tuesdays over on Dice on Ice for Curse of Strahd, DM'd by Megan. Once a month, you can find me over on Erasmus Expeditions, playing in a fantastic homebrew world of Jeremy's called Momentum, Whispers and Fragments. And once a month, you can find me and V over on Nerdarchy, playing in the RPG Crate games that have been going on for a very long time, DM'd by none other than Ted. And sometime, I believe we're starting at the end of August, on the opposite Tuesdays that I'm over on Dice on Ice, right here on Mini Terrain Domain at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Every other Tuesday will be what is currently tentatively titled Whispers of Destiny, a new campaign featuring the Phandelver setting, combining Dragons of Icespire Peak with Lost Mines of Phandelver from the starter set and the new D&D Essentials kit, with 5 players that I've played with some of them before, but it's the first time that all 5 players, none of them are in any of the other campaigns on this channel. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to running a new campaign with that group. we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We thank you for your continued support. We hope to see you here next week with us. And we're going to end the stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
It doesn't feel like